Amber.
Well, hello.
We're so happy to have you today.
Yeah, welcome.
I am so excited. I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes. For all of our listeners and all of our book friends, we have Miss Amber Palmer on with us today.
Woo!
Woohoo!
If you didn't already know, I'm Amber Palmer's #1 fan. Yeah. Self-proclaimed, but we've been talking about doing this and wanting to do this literally since Shelby and I started the podcast. Yep. So I read Amber's books that had been out last summer, and then I've read every single book as it's come out since then. So
that's so awesome. And
yes.
I've even started we got an arc of The Night Runs Red, and I started this one. I'm so excited.
Yes.
And this was your first novel of Darkness and Fire.
Yes, of Darkness and Fire is the first baby.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, before we get started talking about books, Amber, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So I am Amber. I live in Texas. I'm married. I've got a whole horde of animals. So if you see them running around in the background or come across, I can't control them. They're all pretty chill right now, but you never know what's going to set them off.
Right?
But I just celebrated my 2-year, it was of Darkness and Fire's 2-year, book birthday, on the 8th. So that marked 2 years as like a published author.
Wow.
So that has been exciting and wild and crazy just to see like the growth in the 2 years. But I've got the completed trilogy, and then I've got book 1 of my duology that's out, and book 2 will be coming out soon. No dates, but soon.
That's awesome. You also just had another really big milestone, didn't you?
I did. I hit 1 million on Kindle Unlimited Pages, which I never in a million years thought that I would hit. That was absolutely crazy to me. But I hit it, and it was funny because I was literally I'd been checking it every now and then. I try not to make a habit of checking that kind of stuff because you can get into a weird mindset when it doesn't move as fast as you want it to, and so. I hadn't checked it in a while, but it was that day it had crossed over. And so I was like, well, I was just meant to find this.
Oh my gosh.
It was cool. But yeah, I just hit 1 million. So that is super exciting. And it was literally right before the anniversary. So the 2 years. So that was cool as well.
Oh my gosh. That is so perfect. How exciting.
That's amazing. That's so exciting.
I don't think I could have timed it better, even if I had planned anything out. So it worked out.
I love it.
Wow,
that is so
cool.
awesome. How fun.
Yes, I'm very excited, and I'm very grateful as well, because like I said, I never in a million years thought that I would hit that. I never, so it's just been awesome.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about what got you into writing in the first place? You say 2 years ago was when you published your first book, self-published. Yeah. So tell us how you got on that path. How did you decide that you wanted to start writing books?
Yeah, so I feel like I've always liked creative things. I just never really knew kind of what it would manifest as. I've always been really into music, but I didn't want to do anything career-wise with that. And I was actually originally movies were my first big obsession, and I'd been obsessed with them since I was a little kid. Strangely enough, my mom, for whatever reason, decided to take me as a 3-year-old to see Titanic in theaters. And I sat through it the entire time. And so my mom was like, yeah, I knew you were going to be a little bit different of a child after that happened. She's like, you sat through the whole thing, the entire thing. And she goes, and you didn't make a sound.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah. So but I've always loved movies and film in general, and so I kind of wanted to go that route. And I was actually in school for film, and I had to take a screenwriting class. And I had done writing previously, but I was never really any good at it in school because it was more like, the technical writing. And I was like, well, I don't like this. I was like, I can't, I'm not good at writing about things that are real. So I never really like pursued writing per se. And so, I had to take a screenwriting class that was just part of the curriculum. And so I kind of fell in love with it then. Like I'd always liked like making up stories and scenarios and, things like that. Like my imagination was always running wild. But to actually put it down on paper was completely different. And, I had a really amazing professor. And I had, talked to him about it and I was like, I really struggle because like in screenwriting, you're not supposed to put a lot of details because it's like supposed to be, you lay the groundwork, but after that, it's kind of up to the actors to do their, their rendition of it and everything. And so, his biggest thing was like, you're putting a lot of details and it's great. It's beautiful, but like, it's not what we're doing here. And so I told him, I was like, I've, been struggling with that. And he's like, well, have you ever considered writing? And I was like, no. And he's like, you do realize that's kind of like what you're doing here, right? And I was like, I mean, I guess. And so at this point, COVID had hit. And so, everything kind of shut down. And, I switched to taking online classes and, so it was just kind of one of those things that I was like, after I'd finished the class, I was like, well, I mean, why not? Why not give it a try? And I just gotten back into reading again. I'd been a really huge reader growing up, but I think, kind of like how a lot of people do, they kind of fall off in like their early 20s. And so I had just kind of started picking it back up again. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do this. It's just going to be for me. Just me. Like no one's ever going to read it. I'm not going to do that. But at least this way I can kind of get everything out. And then I discovered self-publishing and I was like, well, like maybe I could do this. Maybe I could do this. And then, one thing kind of led to another and here we are. So it was just kind of it was just kind of like a gradual progress. But I'm so really excited because like it's I feel like this is definitely like something like it was like kind of once it clicked. And I was like, oh man, like I really enjoy this. Like maybe this is what I should have been trying to pursue all along. So
oh my gosh. When everything just falls into place.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so exciting. So where did you get your inspiration for Of Darkness and Fire?
I think it was a lot of things. Obviously, like, from Blood and Ash and ACOTAR, like those were, huge when I started writing it. I mean, they still are, obviously. But they were a little bit more fresh on my mind, and I was kind of wanted to do my own take on like a darker fantasy. And I had known that I wanted the main character, Eva, I wanted her to kind of struggle a little bit with like mental health and everything because that reflected my journey and something I'd struggled with. And I think a lot of times like mental health in books, especially like fantasy, gets kind of glossed over and just kind of dismissed. And I don't think it really there's not a lot of books that give it the attention that it deserves. And so I was like, well, I kind of want to do that. And so, I knew she was really easy. And then the characters just kind of started coming out of the woodwork, so to speak. And then, they wouldn't stop. So, it's a culmination of just things that I like, little bits of inspiration from like movie, TV and other books. And, just what I wanted to see in a fantasy book. So
I love it. Once you started writing Of Darkness and Fire, was it easy or did you find there were roadblocks while you were writing?
I found Of Darkness and Fire itself, I found it really easy. Now I have been very honest about like obviously the struggles I went through when I published Of Darkness and Fire. Like I didn't have I didn't know what I was doing. And I had, you know, no one in the book world to kind of like guide me. So I made a lot of mistakes, but like as far as the actual writing went, um, it was very easy, and I feel like it progressed, you know, really well, for me not knowing what I was doing. So I feel like the first book you ever write to publish is your easiest because there's no pressure, right? Like
Yeah.
you're just going into it, and you know, with little to no expectations. Um, and so, you know, there's not like a demand for another book. There's not, you know, anything. And so I feel like that first book that you go to publish is just your easiest because there's no pressure. You can write whenever you feel like it. You're not guilty that you're not writing 24/7. Um, so I think that one, it was definitely my easiest one to write. Um, and I was just really I was really thankful, and I think that's in part to like my characters, and just they had such loud voices and they demanded to be heard, so I think that plays a big part into that.
Oh. Did you know when you were starting Darkness and Fire, did you have an idea of where you wanted the trilogy to go? Like for people who have read this book, you know, there's a whole roller coaster of emotions and how you feel about different people. Like, did you know what that trajectory was going to look like, or did you develop that as you started writing book 2 and book 3?
I had a vague inclination. I knew obviously that, you know, our main characters were going to have, their happy ever after. And I said from the beginning that I couldn't guarantee that for anyone else. um, but but yes, so I had vague ideas. I knew how I wanted, book 2 to go. Book 2 was pretty set in stone. It was book 3 that kind of, was a little bit more, um, improvisation. And I'm a pantser, so like I can't plot to save my life. Like
Oh
I
my
can
gosh.
I have vague ideas that I jot down, and I'm like, well, maybe I'll come back to that. But
I
normally,
love it.
normally, whatever my ideas, especially from like the beginning, what I end up with is nothing similar to what I started out with. So I always just
That's
kind of
fun
go
though.
off of vibes, and so I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I know that this is where I want it to end, but the middle is always a mystery. I don't
Oh
know. I
my
never
gosh.
know what exactly is going to happen. I'll do. I can't remember who it was. I want to say I can't remember and who it was, but an author I watched on TikTok. She had said something about like quilting as like a writing style, and so she was like, I have, certain scenes, and she goes, I'll write those scenes, and then I kind of write around that, and I weave everything together. And I was like, oh my god, yes. I was like, that's amazing. And so that's kind of what I do. But yeah, so I had an idea, but a lot of it was a surprise to me as well.
Oh
So
my gosh. That's
That's
so
cool.
fun.
yeah,
That's exciting though. That's got to be fun to like feel that change along the way, like yourself too, and not even just
it
as
is.
a reader. That's
It
really
is. It
cool.
is. And sometimes like I'm sitting there and I'll have like written a scene or a chapter, or whatever it is, and I'm like, oh man, well, this wasn't on the books. So sometimes that means that I have to then go back and like fix things at the
Yeah.
beginning to like make it
Fit it
cohesive.
in.
Because once they start down a path, I can't change it. I can't rein them back in. And I'm like, no, 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 this isn't what we were doing. And they're like, yes, yeah, it is. This is
Yeah,
this is the plan now.
it
So I'm not in charge. I can't
That
rein
is
them
so
in.
funny.
Once they go off on their own, that's it.
The characters are in charge here.
Absolutely.
Oh
Absolutely.
my gosh, that's so fun.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So tell us more about the process for self-publishing,
Yeah.
what that looks like, any struggles you may have had. We are super impressed with you and how you've just so gracefully gone about it. And so for anybody who may be interested, tell them a little bit more
Yeah.
about what the process could look like.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, I struggled with Of Darkness and Fire. I mean, I'm not, everyone always tells me to not be negative, but I'm like, it's not my best work. I know it's not my best work.
Okay,
Because
but
I
it's
didn't have
so
a
good.
theme.
So good.
Well, thank you. But you know, like you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. And like I learned a lot from that process. You know, that editing itself is incredibly important. And just having some kind of support, or you know, like a beta reader or an alpha reader, just someone else that you can, that's not an arc, that's because arc readers pretty much for the most part get the finished product. It may not be completely edited, but like the story itself is done. But like whenever you send it to like a beta or an alpha reader, like the story is still evolving, so they can give you their ideas, their takes on the story itself, the plot. You know, are there any holes? Does it make sense? Does it flow well? So even just having one person that you can kind of bat ideas off of, you know, and refer to, is I think incredibly important. And honestly, just the community in general is incredibly important when you're writing and publishing, because I couldn't do half of what I do without like the people I know. Like, you know, I couldn't. Like, it's not just, you know, publishing a book isn't just writing. It's, you know, writing and editing, and especially if you're indie, it's also marketing. And
Right.
I mean, the time, effort, and money that you put into this, it doesn't always pay off. I'm still in the red. I haven't made a profit yet. I'm not going to lie to anybody and say that I have. I think it's super important for people who want to go into this to just be really realistic with their expectations. Some people hit it big on their first one. It's a smash and it goes from there. And other people, you know, you have to build up your backlist. And I am the latter. I am building up my backlist so that, you know, maybe one day I can turn this into a full-time job.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate goal. But yeah, I mean, just I would say, I mean, out of everything, just having support and having an editor. Even if, you know, you do like a pre-made cover on Canva, like obviously like cover art is super important. Like we all love covers, but if I had to choose between cover art and an editor, I'd choose an editor every time. Because the story can speak for yourself. You can always go back and you can update the cover. But the story is harder to update once it's out there and once it's published. So I learned that from experience. So, I mean, you gotta kind of look at your own finances and what you're willing to put into it, and see, you know, kind of prioritize and go from there. It's definitely rewarding though. I wouldn't change anything, even if I could.
And
So
how do you go about finding an editor or a cover artist?
Yeah.
Like, where do you even start?
So I am really lucky. So one of my best friends is my editor. She's also an author. And so she is amazing. She makes me sound so much better than I do. Sometimes the words just aren't wording, and I'll write this really basic sentence and she's like, I know this is what you're trying to say. So like let's make it a little bit more bougie. And I'm like, yes, that is it. But like, sometimes I can't think of words. So I found her, I was actually introduced by a mutual friend, and it's been nonstop ever since. So she's a very good friend, and she's also an editor. And like I said, she's an author, so she does her own stuff as well. And then same thing with, cover artist. So when I originally published, I did books 1 and 2. I did the covers myself, which was
so cute.
They're so cute.
Thank you. They're not the ones that I have now. So the ones you have, those were redone at the beginning of 2023. I'm not that talented. I don't know if I have my originals somewhere. I just don't know where. I think they're put away in the tubs. But it's the same premise, but I did it myself. And so I had actually, before she had gotten into covers, my cover, she does everything now. She's done everything. She's done my logo. She's done my chapter headers. She did my map for book 1. She's done stickers. I mean, she's invaluable. She does everything. But again, I was introduced to her by a mutual friend to do my math, and then it just kind of progressed from there until she got into cover art. And so she did the Of Ashes and Crowns cover first. And
Oh my
so,
gosh.
and then at the beginning of 2023, we updated book 1 and 2 to just kind of be cohesive and match. But yeah, she's amazing. But it's just been like word of mouth referrals. And then some people are a hit and some people aren't. You just kind of have to find, someone who meshes with you. Because it's also important. I mean, there may be some cover artists or editors that are just really good at their job, but they may not mesh with you and your writing style or your the ideas you have for your cover. So sometimes, you just kind of have to take that L and be like, you know what, as much as like I'd be, love to work with you, it's not, representative of my story or what I'm looking for. And so, you just kind of have to use your best judgment on that. But again, it's word of mouth referrals. It's, looking in your favorite books, because most of them should have, their cover artist and formatter and editor listed. And so sometimes you can even just find them from there. And just reach out, see if they're taking clients, get their price points, see kind of what you're looking at, and just go from there.
That's so cool too, because you look at like some of our favorite books that we read and the first thing you see is the cover. And they always say don't judge a book by its cover, but it's the first thing you're drawn
to. Thing you see. Yes.
Yes. And I remember when you first mentioned the Of Darkness and Fire series, I was like, these books are so cute.
They were. I'm pretty sure I had first picked it up because it must have been one of your videos or like, I don't know, one of your early readers, because I had it downloaded on my Kindle for a long time before I did it. And I think it's because it was a slightly older female main character, like a little bit more mature. And I think I had seen that in a video. I was like, immediately download.
Immediately, yes.
Yeah. That was something that I, again, when I like was starting to form Eva in my mind, I was like, well, I'm not 19. So like, I don't want her to be 19.
Right.
So that was definitely something I was like, I want her to be old and powerful. Like I don't want her, like, I don't want, just someone who's brand new coming into their powers. Like I want someone who's a little bit more established. And so that was something that I definitely, I wanted to see, and kind of went into the decision to make her a little bit older.
Well, and your female main character in The Night Runs Red, she's also a little bit more mature, and she's curvy, and she is confident in who she is too. So did you have like any inspiration from yourself or from anybody nearby you for who she is as well?
No, I took a lot of Talia from myself. The one thing I would say I don't have is her confidence. That's kind of, she is who I wish I was. But she is, she's fiery. She's curvy. And the big thing with that is I specifically did not give her a size. Because I wanted kind of everybody to be able to relate to her, because she does suffer from like body dysmorphia, and things of that nature. So I wanted anybody to be able to relate. And plus size is so relative. You can have 3 people that are the same size sitting next to each other and their bodies all look different.
Absolutely.
So it was something that I didn't necessarily like, I didn't want to hone in on like one specific thing, because I didn't want anyone to get stuck on, well, I can't relate to her because I'm not X,
Right.
Because sometimes that's where like I get my hang up, like in books. Not that the characters aren't done well, they obviously are, but sometimes when a specific size, even if it's whether it's large or it's skinny, like if it's too emphasized, like it just I feel like it can take people out.
Yes.
So I specifically didn't mention that, and just kind of went with her own struggles with her own body and her body dysmorphia. And she does suffer from something called dermatillomania, which is something that I suffer, which is like compulsive, like skin picking. So it's like a anxiety thing that I've always had. And so that was something that I wanted to put in there as well, just for me. And because I mean, you never see anything like that. And so I wanted to kind of just do that. That was a completely, that had nothing really to do with Kalia or her character or anything, but it was just something that I needed to put in there for me. Because there was a lot of going into, and like, of her accepting a lot of that. And so that was kind of like well, maybe one day, like, I'll get there. So she is a lot of like who I wish I was. And so it was so fun to write her. Just being carefree and sassy, and yes, she may have issues with her body, but at the end of the day, she knows her worth. And so that was something that I really wanted to emphasize on.
I love her sassiness.
Yeah. Well, and I love that in that book too, like, people don't, it's not that people love her in spite of the things that she struggles with. It's like they love her regardless, those things included. And I think that that's really beautiful too. Like, just to remind, like, even us reading it, like, yeah, people love you and all of you. It's like, it's not because, not in spite of those things, but they just love you and who you are at the core. And
yes,
that's
that
really
is
cool.
That is absolutely right. And like the amount of reviews that I got that, like, people were able to relate to her and her struggles, like that, that was huge for me. Like that, I like, some of the reviews made me cry, because I was like, well, like, I've done it. Like, I want people to be able to relate to my characters. And so for so many people to have been able to relate to her and the struggles, in all different walks of life, that was something that was super important to me. And like, that was amazing. It still is. Anytime someone like mentions that in a review or anything, I'm just like, oh, thank you.
It really is so amazing.
Yeah. Do you have, like, and I guess on a more like higher note, sorry, do you have any other reviews or like comments or messages that you've gotten from people that have really stuck out to you, either as like really meaningful and sweet, or really funny when someone hit a shock factor? Like, are there any like memorable interactions you've had with
or
readers?
has somebody texted you live reactions recently?
yeah, someone has. I think my favorite is book 3 in the trilogy specifically. When ARC readers got that, I got a lot of crying selfies.
Aww.
So I have a whole folder on my phone, in my photos, that is just labeled tear trophies.
Tear
And
trophies.
so sometimes when I'm sad and I'm like, man, like, I'm just like in my feels, and I'm like, man, I just don't know about any of this anymore. I just go back and I look, and I'm like, look at all the people I've made cry.
You're like, cute evil laugh.
Yeah. So yeah, that was something that's fun. I literally, I had a friend who ruined the big thing that happens in book 3. She forced me to ruin it for her at a Polycon last year. And so it was Saturday after the ball and everything. And so we were sitting there, and she just like kept going, tell me. And I was like, if I tell you, like, and it wasn't even that, it was who ended up with someone at the end. And I was like, if I tell you that, that's going to spoil something. Big. And she was like, I don't care, just tell me. And so I told her, and so she literally like sank to the floor and was like cry, like, she was like, there were tears. And it was funny because our other friend was sitting there with her camera, just like taking pictures, like, of this whole interaction. So there's like me like being like, I'm so sorry, and she's just like on the floor, like, just like in tears. And I'm
Oh
like,
my gosh.
I told you, like, you did this to yourself.
Yeah,
I told
you did this.
you don't want to know. I told you to wait. You didn't listen. So here we are.
Oh my gosh.
Man.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
that is
also,
so
like,
funny.
obviously, like, the like, everyone, like, every now and then, like, I'll get, you know, the like I said, like, the body positivity comments, or, you know, the comments specifically on, like, mental health or anything of that. But yeah, I love anytime readers slide into my DMs, like, unless they're being mean, which I've never experienced that,
Okay,
thankfully. Like,
good.
knock
Good.
on wood.
Yeah.
Reviews have been mean, but no one's ever slid into my DMs and been like, "You're an awful human," because I would be like,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
but yeah, but anybody else, most of my interactions have always been positive, and I absolutely
Good.
love when readers like slide in there and they tell me how much they like my books, or, you know, just even you know, even just to say hi or anything. Like, that's always
Yeah.
my favorite. I love interacting with people,
Oh my gosh.
so that's always fun.
That's so
But my
fun.
tier trophies are probably,
Tier trophies. That is hilarious.
That's so funny.
Do you go through and read your reviews, or do you hold back on that?
oh man, huh? So I am not allowed to read my reviews, because I spiral. Um,
Oh,
Fair.
I only read like ARC reviews.
okay.
So I only read those because, I mean, as a rule, not as a rule, generally ARC reviews tend to be more positive, because you want people that are familiar with your work. You want people that,
Yes.
you know, are going to interact. And so, I rarely ever turn people down for ARCs, because I want a whole horde of people, you know, to read and be able to receive ARCs. But as a generality, ARCs tend to be more positive. So I always read my ARC reviews. And then once release day, see, I don't know if you just heard, there's a cat somewhere in the
Kitty?
background
I
screaming.
love it.
But but usually either release day or like maybe a couple of days after, because there's still usually like ARC reviews coming in up until usually about a week after
Oh, yeah.
release. But somewhere in there is when I get off of Goodreads, I get off of Amazon, like I walk away from the reviews. Because if not, like I'll sit there. Like, you can't make a story that's for everybody. Not everyone's
Right.
gonna
Right.
like your work. They're gonna find something that they don't resonate with, or they don't like, or, you know, they think the female main character is annoying, or the main male character, or you know, whatever the case is. So, you know, it's at that point, the story's done, it's out there, I can't change anything about it. And so I back away. I'm like, you know what, this is
Right.
no longer for me, and I'm okay with that. So it is what
Right.
it is.
And like you said, you can't make everyone happy. We've
Nope.
definitely gone through that too. Some people have really hated some things we've said. And
Mhm.
it's like, you know what? Like, you're just really not going to be able to make everybody
Yeah.
happy.
Well,
Yeah.
and
at
even
end
the
of
most
day, it's
popular
your
books, you
opinion.
get that.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, there's people who, you know, just don't like it, and that's okay. I don't want everybody to like it, because that doesn't
Right.
feel real. That doesn't feel
Yeah.
genuine. So I'm very okay with that. I know my
Yes.
place, and my place is not in the reviews after a certain time.
Right.
So, and honestly, and it, like I said, it messes with my mental health, because like I am very sensitive, and I know that about myself. And so I'm just like, you know, I'm gonna hurt my own feelings if I stay here. So I just need to go.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's no longer productive.
Yep. So who, out of all of the characters that you've written, who is your favorite character?
Ooh, good one.
Okay, so I don't know that I have a favorite. I think Kalia is probably someone who, like I said, kind of inspires me. So that would be an easy answer to give. 'Cause she is inspiring. But I don't know that I would claim her as my favorite. I don't know if that I can play favorites. I can tell you that the
Fair.
easiest character for me to write was Damien. in my trilogy.
Love it.
And everyone's always surprised by that because there's a lot of issues with him.
We won't ruin anything, but yes.
Yeah, he's definitely problematic. But I was able to put a lot of like my own mental health struggles into his character. And so it was really gratifying for me to see his struggle, and to see him come out on the, like, where he comes out on the other side.
Yeah.
So that was, he was probably my easiest and one of my favorite characters to write, just because there were some times that he was just so bad.
Yes.
Oh, you haven't even gotten there yet, huh?
No, I haven't even gotten there. And I'm like, I'm already thinking that.
Yeah, no. He,
It gets worse.
yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Get ready for your heart to be ripped out, huh?
Oh my gosh.
Book 2 is
I'm going to send you some tear jerks.
Oh.
Yeah. Book 2 Damien is yeah. He's got some issues.
Well, I'm so ready.
Were there any characters that were a big surprise for you of like how they developed or the direction that you ended up having them go?
Yes. So Renee, who you haven't met, or you have, because I ended up adding her in the rewrite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Renee originally wasn't in anything. She kind of materialized out of nowhere in book 2. And so when I did the book 1 kind of like slight re-edit and rework, I added her in so that way she had a place. But she was someone that kind of came out of nowhere, and I initially expected her to be a little bit more of a background character. And by the end of book 2, I knew that was no longer going to be able the case. Book 3 has a lot of POVs and a lot of characters, and so you get more of her, and you get more of her backstory, and she has her own storyline. So she has her own. So that she herself was just a huge shock to me. And then also just in general, in book 3, I knew that. Oh my god!
I love it.
Sorry. He's like 19 years old and he's senile. He's my husband's childhood cat, and so sometimes he just gets a little lost and just walks around.
Oh my
yelling.
Gosh! He's like, "Let me in."
Yeah, I don't know where he is now. But yeah, so she was a surprise, and then in book 3, which I don't think it really spoils anything. Obviously in big fantasy books, it's hard for everyone to get out alive.
Yes.
And so there were some choices that needed to be made, and I will say that originally it was different. And so I ended up changing it once, and again, it ties into once Renee's storyline kind of progressed a little more, and all the characters as a whole. So yeah, that was book 3 really threw me for a loop, man. It just in general, it was nowhere. It was there were too many twists and turns, and it changed all the time as these side characters started showing more of themselves. So that was really fun to see, but also really difficult, because I was like, I need you guys to get on the same page, because you're giving me different things.
Is so funny.
And I need us to come together. I need it to be cohesive. So
what a fun writing process, though.
Yeah.
It's chaotic.
I was gonna say that brings us well into though what's coming up. So you've got one trilogy out, you've got one half of a duology out. So what does the next like year look like for you? Like what type of releases are you trying to put out? Like what's that schedule look like? When are you going to give me what I want?
I know why you're asking this question. So obviously the next book, the duology, the book 2 is next. That is getting pushed back just a little bit than what I had intended. I had originally intended to publish end of February, beginning of March. But with my schedule and with my cover artist schedule, we had to push things back a little bit. So I'm hoping now for end of March, beginning of April. Before a Polycon is my hard limit. Just because then I've got Imaginarium coming up at the beginning of June, and I need time to get everything done. So
absolutely,
by the beginning of April is my like end all be all goal. So that is coming first, and then because everything's kind of gotten pushed back a little bit, I have another release in the works or project in the works that is actually a kind of a waiting in suspense. I love it. So obviously there were a few loose ends at the end of the trilogy. And so those characters are getting their own book. And so it'll be in the world of the Darkness and Fire series. And it'll be book 4 technically, I guess.
Right.
I never really know what to call it, because like SJM kind of did that with like ACOTAR. Obviously the first 3 are like Reese and Feyre, and then you get the little novella that like kind of bridges everything, and then Silver Flames kind of goes into Nesta and Cassian. And so that's kind of what I'm doing. It's staying in the same world, but it's switching to a different couple. So it's outside of the original trilogy, but it is a continuation of like the series as a whole. So I don't really know what you call that. Haven't really figured that out. But yes, it will be those characters' story. And I'm very excited. I've been plotting that. I know. I said I'm not a plotter. There have been certain things, certain scenes, certain again, things that I know. And so I've written those down on a general outline. And a lot of it is just going to be left up to how it goes. It is a little bit of a time jump. I can say that. So it'll take place anywhere from 5 to 10 years after the end of book 3. So the official time jump, it's something I'm working on, because again, it kind of affects something that would happen later. But
that's so cool.
I'm like, this is just making me more excited.
Once you read book 3, you're gonna understand what we're talking about. But
I'm like, I'm just more excited now.
Anyone who's finished the trilogy kind of I would know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I can't say any more than that.
No, can't say any more than that.
No.
You need the shock factor.
Exactly.
I'm still dying to see how you're going to finish that duology, though. The cliffhanger on the end of book 1.
Holy crap.
I do not understand how we're going to come back from that. My mind is just blown. I'm really glad it's only a couple more months we have to wait for that one, but I am dying to see how that goes.
Yes. That has proved tricky. Even just from like a marketing standpoint, I'm like,
yes,
I am limited on what I can say, because obviously I can't say anything about the ending of book 1, because for anybody who hasn't read book 1, I can't ruin that. And then there are other things that I'm like, well, I can't share that. So it's made marketing a little bit difficult, not gonna lie.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it is coming. I'm almost I finalized a big portion of edits it was so funny though, because I realized last night while I was writing, and I texted my editor, and I was like, so I was like, I think I'm writing the ending right now. I was like, I don't know how I got here.
Wow.
I was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
it's kind of changed. I was like, I don't know where these characters are taking me, but this feels like the ending.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so I always kind of put off the ending just in case I need to go back and like
Mm.
rework anything towards the beginning that could
Mm-hmm.
affect the ending.
Mhm.
Like I know how I want it to end, but it's very broad. So I try
Yeah.
to hold off on that until most of edits are done. And so that way, if
Mhm.
I end up having to change something, it's not a massive overhaul. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, yeah, no, so I texted him and I was like, I don't really know what's happening right now, but I think it's ending. And she was like, I don't know what you mean you think it's ending. And I said, I don't know either, honestly. Your guess is as good as mine, but
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
this feels like it's coming up to the ending, like the big things. And so yeah, so
Wow.
that's been fun. Book two
That
has been
is
a
so
challenge.
cool.
Um
Yeah, I remember when
and
we
I
both
like
finished the
to
arc, we were texting each other. We were
Yeah.
like, "Can you believe that?"
Yeah.
I like to remind everybody that it was loosely based on Romeo and Juliet. So
That is not
That
helpful.
does't make me feel better though. That's the
it's
problem.
not
That doesn't make me feel better.
it's not supposed to.
Oh my gosh.
I will say that there is there is some semblance of a happy ever after. It
Some
ends
semblance.
in a positive way.
It ends. That's all.
Question
She's
mark,
like,
it
it ends
ends.
in a way. There is a ending. That's what I'm
There is
hearing.
an ending. There is an ending.
She's like, I don't know that you're gonna like it, but there is an
no,
ending.
yeah.
Well,
I know that goes into the whole like it's not romance but doesn't have a happy ever after. It has a happy ever after.
okay.
It in a way.
In a way.
In a way.
Oh my gosh.
I
Well,
love
okay.
it.
You mentioned briefly that thinking about marketing for book 2 was
Mhm.
challenging, trying to figure out like what teasers can you say, like what quotes can you throw in. So maybe like could you just tell us a little bit about as an indie author what
Mhm.
it's like trying to market your own book, like
Oh,
what things
absolutely.
work well, what's been hard.
Absolutely. So Canva is my best friend. Canva is invaluable. And I always like to go back and look at like my, and they're nowhere on my Instagram because I did an overhaul like whenever I started actually like getting decent at the design. But man, Canva Premium is totally worth the monthly cost. I don't know what it is now because I like got grandfathered in like prior, but it's absolutely invaluable. You can't you I don't know how anybody does it without that. But yeah, it's marketing is so difficult. And I think everyone kind of knows to a certain extent, especially if they're on like if they are like a bookstagrammer, I don't know what that was,
Yeah.
Mhm.
or a TikToker. You know, I mean, the algorithm is weird. You never know what's gonna hit.
Yep.
You never know what's gonna
Yep.
land.
Mhm.
Sometimes you spend literal hours on posts or content or whatever, and it falls flat.
Yep.
So I'm still trying to figure all that out. I think it really just comes down to, um, I mean, trying things and failing and taking that and being like, okay, well, this didn't work. So like, let me
Yep.
rework it, which is sometimes
Yes.
a pain. But yeah, it's and part of networking is or part of marketing is networking. And so it's really just like connecting with people or readers or other authors or bookstagrammers or TikTokers or whatever the case may be. Um, and so it's that is also an invaluable resource as well. But but marketing is hard. You have to put a lot of time into that and dedication.
Yeah.
So not only are you sitting here writing and you're trying to finish a book or finish edits or, plot your next project or whatever the case is, but you're also like spending literal hours making graphics or videos or,
Right.
compiling quotes from your books to use in teasers. Like it's just, there's a lot in the background and it's very time consuming. But it's totally worth it at the end. And like I said, just finding your niche and kind of sticking to it and your brand, so to speak. It that also helps because then you're kind of sticking to one vibe and people kind of know what to expect, and so then you kind of attract that kind of audience. Whereas if your posts are kind of all over the place, I mean, it works for some people. It doesn't work for me. I try to keep to an aesthetic as much as possible, because then people kind of know what to expect. But yeah, it's a lot of trying and failing and figuring out what works and what doesn't, and not getting too upset when a video that you spent 2 hours on gets like 200 views on TikTok or like 5 likes. So it's time consuming and sometimes it's a little bit of a letdown.
Definitely.
But
We've been
it's
there
nice
too.
to have that.
Yeah, trust me, we've definitely been there too.
Exactly. So, I mean, and like I said, that's something I feel like a lot of people can relate to. Especially if they are on any sort of, platform and trying to get their stuff out there. So I think we're all collectively struggling. No one knows what the algorithm
Absolutely.
wants and no one knows, what'll hit. So we're all just kind of stumbling around together.
Always.
Oh, I love that.
We're just stumbling around together.
Yeah.
This community is so awesome.
Yeah.
It is. And I have not, I mean, yes, obviously there are the, bad eggs in the bunch. You're going to have that in any community though. There's always going to be the others that, try to ruin it for others. But for the most part, I have never been a part of such a just supportive community as the book community is. From like I said, readers, authors, bookstagrammers, like everyone collectively, I feel like everyone wants everyone to succeed for the most part.
Yes.
And so it's really amazing that people are willing to support others and be there for others and answer questions. And I mean, I have people that I literally ask so many questions to, and I'm like, one of these days you're going to block me because you're going to be like, why are you asking me so many questions? But it's just, the community is amazing. And I could not be more grateful to be a part of such an inclusive and eclectic group.
That is so awesome.
That's so beautiful.
Well, where can our book friends find you?
Yeah.
So I am at Amber Palmer Author across all platforms. It's easy to remember. My books are on Amazon, Kindle Unlimited, all of them. I've got an Etsy store, which I think really just has most merch and stuff, I was going to say. And this is on there too. I'm
the cutest sweatshirts. It's so cute.
So I've got sweatshirts. I've got some art prints on there. I really have to check because after kind of Black Friday, everything I haven't gone back on. That's bad. But yeah, so I've got merch and stuff on there on my Etsy shop, and then my website again, it's just amberpalmerauthor.com. I try to keep it as simple as possible.
That's perfect.
Because I can't keep up with a million different usernames, and I'm like, I don't know. So everything is collectively the same.
That is so wonderful.
Nice. That's good. That makes it easy for people to find your books after listening to this.
Yes, absolutely. I try to make it as easy as possible.
I love it.
The little kitty meows are so cute.
It is so cute. And how do we and our book friends best support you?
Yeah.
I mean, as always, like, share, comment. Those are huge. Just getting kind of that reach out there. Sharing sharing, authors that other people may not have heard of. I know not everyone, watches their stories and stuff, but every now and then you get a good quote, and then, it's just kind of organic. It's that word of mouth. Reviews are huge. And not just, obviously don't tag authors in bad reviews. But even if you've got a negative review, leave the review. Reviews in general, they do just help. They help. Leave reviews of your favorite books, even if it's just a star review. It just kind of helps get it out there just a little bit more. And like I said, all my books are on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription, you're not paying for my ebooks. And I try to price my physical books decently, so that way, you're not paying an arm and a leg. So I try to do that as best as I can to be kind of mindful, and so kind of allows more people to have access to them. So, because that's really important to me. I don't want anyone to ever feel like they can't afford to be a reader.
Yes.
So that's something I always try to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Do you have any signed books on your Etsy account?
I did. I think I'm all out. I got more stock in recently, so I need to go through and I need to update. So that'll be coming.
Ooh.
Eventually, whenever I get around to actually going in and updating everything.
Yeah.
I know right now I've got stock of the Night Runs Red.
Nice.
I know I've got some of like book 2 in the trilogy. I've got stock of that. But I don't know about book 1 and 2 or 1 and 3. So I need to check on that. So
that's awesome.
But yes, I do have some, or that is where you can find them. Also, I've got a TikTok shop. So it's new. I don't know what I'm doing, but apparently a lot of people have on it. So why not try it?
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Oh, so cool.
What events do you have coming up in the next few months?
Yeah, so this year, 2024, I'm at 2. I'll be going to a Polygon just to hang out. I've got a lot of friends that'll be there that are signing, so I'm going to go and hang out at there. But signing wise, I'm going to be at Imaginarium Book Festival in June. That's June 6th and 7th, I believe, or 7th and 8th. Oh, I'm so bad. It's the first weekend in June. And then Sinners and Stardust, which takes place in Boston in August.
Cool.
I'm not certain on those dates just because I'm going to be there before to like help, because I know all the girls in that. So I'm bad at dates, obviously. But it is in August. I want to say it's like the 16th through 18th. Don't quote me on that, but it is on Instagram. It is on Instagram. It's on my website. It's on their website. Yeah. So, but I will be an attending author at both of those.
That is so cool. Exciting.
Mm-hmm.
You should hit up Readers Take Denver.
Yeah, we're going to be at Readers Take Denver 2025. We should try and drag you out for that.
I want to go. I did apply for 2024, but I was too late. So I applied for 2025. So here's to seeing if I get accepted. I would get love
pictures
to go.
If you get.
I would love to go. That is something that I would love to attend. Even just to hang out. So, which I know that tickets I think just went on sale. They might already be sold out. I have no idea. I'm so bad at keeping track of things. But it is something I would love to be a part of. So.
Oh, that is so fun. Because if we haven't said it yet, we are an Amber Palmer Stan account.
Obviously.
Number 1 fan.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, Amber, thank you so much for being on here with us today. It has just been a blast.
Yes, this has been amazing. And thank you so much for telling us so much about like the background process of what it's like being an indie author too. I think there's a lot of people that want to pursue that type of career too and just don't even know where to start. So it's got to be really inspirational for them too to be able to hear how you've learned through that process and got to where you are.
Yeah, I am an open book when it comes to that kind of stuff, because I never want anyone to ever feel like they were alone, because like I didn't have anybody, like I said, I didn't have anybody, and I didn't know who to turn to as well. So yeah, I don't ever want anybody, especially who's wants to pursue this, to feel like they can't do it because they don't know what they're doing. So yeah, I don't think that should ever be limited. So I always try to be as much of an open book as possible.
That is so awesome.
Oh, amazing.
Well, we are on the edge of our seats for when the Day Burns Bright comes out. We are so excited, and I will be texting you live updates
Obviously.
while I'm going through the trilogy.
I want all the updates. I want all the responses. That is my literal favorite thing in the world. I'm just like sitting here laughing as you're like crying. It's fine.
Oh man. Oh, well, God, thank you. Thank you again so much. It was so great having you today, and we'll see you next week, book lovers.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.